You're listening to Forward Faster, bite-sized insights for entrepreneurs.
Thank you for tuning in to the Forward Faster podcast. I'm Dustin Wilson, Startup Community Manager at NextCore. I'm joined today by Peter Platt, founder and president of Accountable Digital, a leading digital marketing agency here in Rochester, New York. Peter is a true digital pioneer. He built the first ever DuPont.com website. He was one of the first 100 people certified in Google Ads. And he's a sought-after speaker on topics like metrics that matter, AI in marketing, and digital strategy alignment. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So you've been at digital marketing since the 1990s. You've seen new tools, new platforms, changing trends. How has your foundational experience shaped the way you view digital marketing today?
It's funny. I think the only thing I no longer have to answer is my audience online? Back in 1993, very few people were online. Nowadays, everybody's online, but it's like, I still have to explain what an impression and a click are and things like that and how they're important and where that goes. So I think the foundations of it are still true. We try to communicate to people, to let them know about products and services, make them aware, give them interesting offers to get them interested and engaged. But, it doesn't really matter whether you're on your phone or you're on a screen or if you're on watching connected TV. It's still the same goal. Oh, we want to get prospects to know about our products and hopefully, if they're interested, buy them.
Tell me a little bit more, as these platforms and tech continues to evolve, what are some of those core principles that marketers never should forget?
People get caught up in the shiny metal object theme, like, oh my gosh, what's new today? I remember, I think for probably 5 or 6 years was the year of mobile, where mobile was coming. And then all of a sudden, mobile was behind us. It just kind of became the thing. And so I think the trick is not to get caught up in the hype of whatever the news is. Like nowadays, there's a whole new slew of social media channels, Blue Sky, Red Note, things like that people are shifting from Meta, whether it's Facebook, Instagram. Are they using Threads? There's so many different things. And I think a lot of people get caught up in this idea like, I have to chase the newest thing. Whereas, no, I have to get to where the people are. So what are the tools that people are using? That's how you find the right place. And so I think that's always the critical foundation is thinking about like, okay, who's my audience? What do they do? Just because something's new doesn't mean you have to do it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it either. So it is worth looking at that, but doing it in a balanced approach. Whenever there's something new out there, I'm happy to help a client look at spending 5 or 10% of their budget on it to test something out, try something. But it's not something where you say, oh, throw your whole budget into something brand new and see what happens. Well, you need to use the foundations that work, and where your clients are and where your customers are is where you want to be.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that 5 to 10% just to test, because there is always something sort of new coming up. It's a nice little benchmark to go by. When it comes to sort of staying ahead of the curve, are there any specific skills that digital marketing professionals should be trying to cultivate as they think about their careers?
Yeah. So obviously the big buzzword of the day is AI. I left that out before social, but AI is really changing things. And I think a lot of people, look at all these different tools, they get caught up in those latest things. But as a foundational component, I think understanding marketing strategy is critical to being successful. Like, what are we trying to do? What do we want people to do? How's that work? And then applying it into the digital platforms. So Google Search is a great tool. It's got people searching right now. They're actively engaged looking for something. That's a great time to get in front of people. But don't throw all your budget there. There may be other places where I need to get people aware of what we're doing and think through that. So I think having that marketing foundation and then applying it to the platform you're looking at. If you want to buy a new car, you might go online and say, oh, I'm looking for an SUV. And then I'm looking for a 4-wheel drive SUV. And then I'm looking for a 6-passenger 4-wheel drive SUV. And, those 3 searches can go on in, 5 minutes or 5 days or 5 weeks or 5 months. And at the end, somebody's typing in Audi Q6, whatever SUV, they're looking to buy. But if they didn't show up early on, then I'm not going to consider the Audi because I'm going to be looking at other 4-wheel drive models or electric cars or whatever the different kind of nuance is. And so I think taking those marketing strategies and understanding like, oh, how do people act? Where do you go with that? That's the foundation. And I think as you're starting out, that's a great place to think about like, oh, what are we trying to do with this? It's not because something's cool and new. It's because something's effective.
So as a startup founder servicing the community that NextCore services here,
Yep.
would that answer change for somebody trying to do it on their own? Or do you think those fundamentals still apply that early on?
Yeah, I think as a startup founder, I mean, obviously there's a step back before you get to marketing is what's the product idea or service idea? What are you, coming up with? But pretty quickly, the next step is, and who needs it, right? And that's the critical component because there's tons of startup stories. I'm sure you guys have them and things like that of, wow, this is a really great idea. There's 4 people in the world who need it. Okay, call them up directly, sell it to the 4 of them and be done, right? Because it's who's it interesting to, what problem does it solve, who that audience is. So I think that's marketing fundamentals, but it's also product fundamentals. The 4 Ps, when we go back in the old days of this, thinking through those components and really understanding, oh, who's my audience? And then, oh, where are they? And now how do I get to them?
So you recently led a workshop at NextCore around an 18-month checklist people should follow to assess their digital health. You got into metrics that matter and metrics that, on the other hand, can be misleading. Can you share some highlights from that?
Sure. So the metrics that matter and metrics that can be misleading, I think, do depend company to company, service offering to whatever. So I can't blanket statement say, oh, this is a bad metric, this is a good metric. I will pick on bounce rate. My favorite old metric, thankfully, Google abandoned it. But that was something that clients would come to me all the time and say, my bounce rate is high, low, whatever. And I said, well, bounce rate is technically factored on single visit, page visit. So somebody comes to a single page and leaves. And so what people would do is look at their whole website. And you might have a page on your website that has 10,000 visits to it, and 200 people entered on that page, and 50 of them less. So it suddenly has a 25% bounce rate. That doesn't talk about the other 9,800 people who were on the page looking at it. And so I think it's easy to get caught up in something that's cute and interesting. So I think, some of the metrics that can be important is, are we getting traffic? Are people engaging with our content? For the most part, most of my clients want leads or sales. Those are sort of the core metrics. If it's B2B, it's leads. If it's e-commerce or something, it's sales, or foot traffic in a restaurant or whatever kind of thing. And so really understanding the metrics that mean the most to your business is the most critical part. So we always encourage clients and prospects to think about, start with your business objectives. If your business objective is, we're trying to grow our business by expanding to new markets, we're going into Buffalo, well, then metrics related to Buffalo are going to be really important. If you're already in Buffalo, those metrics are probably part of your overall mix already. But really understanding the metrics that are meaningful. And then the other piece is asking the question of, if this metric is good or bad, what will I do about it? And if your answer is probably nothing, then you probably shouldn't be worried about that metric. If your metric is something that you're going to say, oh, we're not getting enough leads. Okay, that's a metric I can act on. How do I get more leads? How am I getting them now? How do I react to it? But if a metric of site visitors is, oh, I want to get more visitors or more meta followers, right? I think that's often a mistaken metric that I think a lot of people chase is, oh, I need to get more followers. And then if you look at the stats, Meta only shows to somewhere around less than 5% of your followers will actually see your posts. Well, great. Then I can double my audience and I'll get to, a larger 5%.
Yeah.
But it's still not going to drive. And so what are we trying to do with a different platform and things like that? So I think that's how you need to look at metrics, is always asking yourself, will I do something with this metric? And if the answer is no, stop paying attention to it. It can be fun for a day to dig down into Google Analytics reports or whatever report and kind of look at things. But at the same time, if you're not going to act upon it, it's probably not a good metric to be putting out as your benchmark.
Yeah. I think one of the examples you used in your talk when you were talking about the likes was that not everybody sees it at the same variable. So it depends on what else they're following and how many other things are showing up in their feed. And I don't think that's something that comes immediately to mind to a person marketing, that what are they competing against within that feed necessarily.
Right. And the people who like most brands are people who've had an experience and are engaged and committed. Like, hey, I like to go to this restaurant. I like to wear these sweatshirts, whatever it happens to be. Those are the people you need to market to the least, right? They already love you. They're already your fans and followers. So great. You want to keep talking to them because current customers is always a great place to get more business. But at the same time, new customers is usually on the docket for most people.
Yeah, exactly. In a previous speaking engagement, you emphasized avoiding the AI efficiency trap, since it's kind of the buzz of the day. Can you explain what that means and how to use AI for meaningful impact?
The big promise of AI is, it's going to cut people, right? It's going to be, I can get more done in less time. I can get more things accomplished. And efficiency is a great thing, but effectiveness is always going to be more important. And so that's the thing that we look at is how can you use AI to increase effectiveness? A great example of that is the Google platform has, a lot of AI, machine learning, whatever term you want to apply to it. And we could have lengthy discussions about what does AI mean, AGI, all these different terms. But one of the things that we did 10 years ago was very specific keywords and control what Google was showing because we knew what was best there. But Google's got some really great AI that is now impacting how this person searched over the last 2 weeks. So if we get back to my car example from before, right? Oh, they were searching for the 6-passenger SUV 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks later, they're searching for a truck or something like that. Google knows we should throw some SUV stuff in here for this person. Now, a traditional model where you're very strict on that isn't going to be efficient, I guess, but it's very effective. So that way to try and look at things and kind of say, how does this make me more effective? We do a lot of writing and developing things for clients. We can probably get 50% of the way there with a well-written prompt in Chat or Gemini or Perplexity, whatever. You can get 50% there. And I think that's the opportunity to say, now how do I spend maybe 60% of the time making it much more effective? So, we saved some time. And in total, I'm only at 60% or 70%, as opposed to, I just took the AI and saved a ton of time, but it's not very efficient or accurate, or it may have falsehoods in it. AI's fabulous hallucinations that happen where they make stuff up. So you need to be able to look at that, but being able to go through and really look to say, okay, I can make my copy better by using a deep research or something like that to really dig in. Because when I used to write blog posts 5 years ago, I might read 15, 20 articles on a topic. ChatGPT just read 10,000 articles on a topic. Now, probably a lot of them were wrong and I need to adjust, but that kind of efficiency of getting that in, but then taking it to make it more effective by putting human intelligence on top of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Basically using AI to sort of augment what you were doing already.
Right. Yeah. Human intelligence will always win.
Exactly. So as a frequent speaker and trainer, are there any sort of emerging topics that you'd think deserve more attention and they're maybe being overlooked because of the prevalence of AI?
I would say the foundational components are what are sort of missed out there, is people are quick to, AI generated this, I want to push it out there, I want to do it. And they haven't thought through the, who's my audience? What's their need? What's their, that kind of thing. So I think one of the things in our conference room, I have a little sign that says why on it. And I tell people it's pretty easy to do digital marketing. Knowing why you're doing it is what's important. And I think that's the place that a lot of people jump into the tools, the tactics, the technologies, and don't spend the time thinking about what am I trying to do? Who's it for? It's kind of carts before the horse there. And so that's where I think that it's really important to spend some time on the foundational components of what marketing is going to deliver for you, and then add on the tools and capabilities on top of that. And so I think, it's easy to get caught up in AI. It's easy to get nervous about, will your job go away, or will you be replaced, or what can you do with it? But I think the foundations of, we help clients sell more stuff is what we all should be focused on, and spending time thinking about that aspect of it, and not just Facebook's doing this or Instagram that or Snapchat or whatever platform, but, who are my customers? What are their needs? How do I solve those?
It's an interesting echo of the problem we see with early stage startups where they build a product based off their personal experience, but where they validate the need for a product to exist.
Yep.
In your experience, what is the most important first step a business can take to move from digital activity to digital accountability?
So the metrics part of things, so what I talked about in that 18-month checkpoint and things like that, I think is understanding how you're going to measure success. Lots of people build a website, they make them look pretty, they write a lot of copy, whether AI does it or whatever, but they built a website, they built a social presence, whatever their platform to get out there. But then they forget about it because it's sort of, I think we've probably all been in that restaurant that's been open for 10 years and you kind of see, the cuts in the furniture, the stuff that they don't see anymore because they walk in there every day. I think that's what happens with a lot of metrics and things is, we put them out there, but we don't pay attention to them. And so I think having a solid foundational set of things that are important, paying attention to those on a regular basis. So it might be once a quarter. Let's look at this metric. Should we do something about it? If we look at it every month and we're like, that's how much traffic we have. And next month we go, that's what much traffic we have. It looks like it's getting better. It looks like it's getting worse. Well, what are you doing about it? And so I think that's the critical part is like really understanding the metrics that are going to be important to help you make business decisions and then continuing to pay attention to them.
We've covered a lot, but are there any sort of final tips that you think you'd like to leave our listeners with?
It's just always important to step back. We tend to get in our heads, in our business, in our jargon, in our kind of thing, and lose sight of the customer at the end of the day. And I think that's the trick is like stepping out of the day-to-day stuff because you're so close to it that you need to pause for a minute, look at it, go back to something you wrote 3 months ago and checkpoint it. Like, does this still make sense? Are we along the right strategy? Do things need to change? And so that's just kind of the general message I'd pay attention to is sort of how do we make it better for our audiences, not necessarily just for ourselves.
Well, thank you, Peter, so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're a startup or an entrepreneur in the Rochester region, I invite you to check out NextCore at nextcore.org. You can search for and subscribe to the Forward Faster podcast here, as well as on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube. And thanks again for listening.